Throughout my life, I have witnessed many paranormal events. One that left a significant mark on me is the one I previously shared. You published it on your Facebook page. I consider this current experience even more intense because my children were affected this time. It all began one night while I was rocking my youngest son in his crib. The calm atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by a creaking sound. I immediately turned around and noticed that a chair behind me was closer than I remembered. I heard the noise of the chair dragging, but I wasn't entirely sure it had actually moved, so I didn't pay much attention. However, a few days later, I became alarmed when I realized that every night when I put my child to bed in his crib, the chair would move on its own. On 2 occasions I saw it clearly as if someone was dragging it. What terrified me was that it always moved toward the crib, ending up right in front of it. The first thing I did was move the chair away. I placed it near a corner of the room and turned it in the opposite direction. That night I rocked my son as usual. I felt relieved when I realized nothing strange happened. Then I turned off the light, left the room quietly, gently closed the door, and headed to my bedroom. Just then, I heard that sound again on the other side of the door. I immediately returned and realized it had happened once more. The chair was back in front of the crib, very close to it. My eldest son ran out of his room terrified. He had heard the sound of the chair dragging. It was undoubtedly louder this time. That was the last time it happened. I got rid of that cursed chair. But the unexplained phenomena didn't end there. I remember when our baby started to vocalize, something happened that made us realize things were getting worse. One night, my wife and I heard him talking in his sleep. Like any loving parents, we approached. Amid discreet laughter, trying to focus on what he was saying, hearing what he uttered gave me one of the most horrifying sensations I've ever experienced. "Leave me, dark one. Leave me." It was difficult to understand him. You know how young children are? But the most accurate explanation we could get from him was that a man in a suit and black hat would appear to him when he was alone. Faced with this, we didn't know how to react. We didn't know what to do. From then on, we tried to leave him alone for as little time as possible. I must clarify that, during that period we never saw this man. What filled us with the most helplessness was that he seemed to see him while sleeping, to the point that he no longer wanted to sleep. He would only do so when exhaustion overcame him. But generally, after a few minutes he would wake up crying, claiming he had seen the dark man in his dreams. We were just about to decide to see a doctor when the topic came up while talking with my older sister. At that point, I realized everything was more complex than I thought because she told me that her children had also been victims of the appearances of a man with a similar description. Her daughter, the youngest, had the worst of it. She dreamed of him constantly, to the point of waking up crying. Like my little one, she also developed a strong fear of bedtime. She even required the intervention of a psychologist. After going over the matter countless times, we believe we have a small and incomplete explanation for the origin of this man's appearances. My sister says that when we were children we had a neighbor who commonly dressed that way, always formally with a suit and hat. He loved children. In fact, she remembers that he frequently played with her and her friends and always said goodbye by giving them a bunch of candies. Interestingly, she has a great image of him. Apparently he was a very good person. I vaguely remember seeing him out of the corner of my eye, mainly due to his peculiar way of dressing, although I never really interacted with him. We have tried to get information about him by asking our family, but no one knows what happened to that man. I think it's quite a stretch on our part to take it as a fact, but we can't think of anything else, likely the same thing you're thinking right now. We believe that this man is the one appearing to our children more than 30 years after not knowing anything about him. Another thing we've considered is that, based on his age at that time, it's very likely that he has already passed away. Fortunately, just as it started, it ended. Suddenly, our children were able to sleep normally, undisturbed.
Todos ellos son miembros de nuestra familia. A pesar de que parece que todo está bien, aún nos da miedo que en algún punto todo se vuelva a repetir. Nos llena de terror que ese hombre comience a molestar a mis otros sobrinos. No sé qué otros datos puedo agregar a esta anécdota. Me gustaría saber si entre su público existe alguien que haya atravesado por una experiencia similar. Les mando un gran abrazo.
Cuídense.
Hasta pronto.